Hey there, Jackie Haley from Dream to Author, and I am so excited to introduce you to Danny Beyer. He is a friend of mine. He has been an author, a speaker, an all-around success story. So I brought him on to talk a little bit about authors, the what it takes, what the process is, the aha moments, and kind of go through the benefits of being an author and what you get out of that. So welcome, Danny. Thanks for coming.
Thanks so much, Jackie. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So Dan, tell me a little bit about your book. First off, you've got The Ties That Bind, and this really it provides strategies and ideas to network among others. And it's for everyone, really, right? It's for the newbies in networking as well as seasoned professionals. And tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, if you need a job publicizing, let me know. The Ties That Bind, it released in 2015. I wrote it because I was speaking on networking and developing relationships. Was traveling around doing speaking engagements, and people would ask me at the end of an event, "Hey, do you have a book? Do you have a podcast? Do you have something more? Because I really like your message. I like what you're saying, but I'm interested in learning more." So I put together the book originally to be targeted towards college students, because when I graduated, in my communications degree, business stuff, I never had a class. I never had someone really talk about the benefits of networking and relationship development. And so wanted a simple and easy to digest book that would allow people, I call it an airplane book. If you picked it up and got on an airplane, you'd be able to finish it before you landed. And really just to dive into the basics of what is networking? How do you have great conversations? How do you push your own ideas forward? How do you use the pitfalls of social media to your advantage to really build your brand, but also help others achieve their goals while they're willing to help you?
Absolutely. And we need that more today than ever before. Yeah. With the changes in technology, the change in our environment, the economy. It is so important to keep our communication strategies up and make those connections so that we can move in a positive way. Tell me a little bit, how long have you had this book idea? You'd said people had kind of approached you about that. How long before you kind of put that into motion?
So I actually started blogging about this idea of networking and business development, as well as relationship development and sales back in 2013. So I started doing bi-weekly blogs just on random observations I had, put it out there through my own personal website. A couple things got picked up here locally by a couple magazines, as well as business publications, started speaking on it. And as, again, people were approaching me saying, "Hey, we'd really like more information. Do you have a book?" That was kind of my first, as you said earlier, aha moment, where it was like, "Hey, people are asking me for this. Do I have enough content? Do you think I could put this together?" So I met with my publisher, Book Press Publishing. Full disclosure, I am a minority partner in that publishing company now. I want to make sure we get that all out there.
Right.
Met with the owner. We sat down and had a pretty big conversation about, hey, what does it take to write a book? What information do you need? And really those blogs were kind of the stepping stones that I used to initiate and get those first, I would say that first crucial chapter done.
Right. Absolutely. And do you have any other aha moments you could share with first-time book writers in this process? Because you had mentioned one that's a great segue, just to help them out, help them move forward and see that they actually can. Because, there are three obstacles they usually face. It's lack of confidence, lack of education, or lack of time in their day. But we're kind of breaking those down and getting through those through Dream to Author. But as an author yourself, what did you experience?
Yeah, and I love what you're doing, and I love the way you phrase that, Jackie, because that's really, I think every author I've ever talked to, including myself, hit all of those roadblocks along the way. Yeah. So the first aha moment was when I figured out my own personal style, which sounds kind of ridiculous on the surface, but when I originally met and did some research on my own, the advice that I was given on writing a book is you need to write a book that's between 10 to 12 chapters around 10 to 12 pages. Because if you do that per chapter, you're going to end up with a decent sized business book, kind of the standard as we would say in business books. The thing is, like I said, I'm a blogger by trade. It's what I'm really good at. I'm very good at concise ideas in 500 to 750 words. And so when I started writing the book in the fall of 2014, in the spring of 2014, I had this tremendous amount of writer's block because I would write 500, 700 words and I'd be done with an idea and I'd go, crap, do I need to expand on this to get to 10 pages? Because 10 pages is a lot more words than 500 to 750 words. And so I rewrote that first chapter about a dozen times, frantically pulling my hair out, pun intended, and came to the consensus that maybe I just couldn't write a book. And so I met again with my publisher and he asked me the question, well, do you actually have enough content? Maybe that's your problem. And I said, well, yeah. And I pulled up my blog and I had at that time written close to 50 blogs. And he laughed and he goes, well, Danny, there's your book right there. Take those blogs, add some transitions, figure out which ones go together, and you've got the basis of your book done. And I took his advice and I ran with it. So I took those 50-ish blogs and that became really the first 2/3 of the book that was printed in 2015. So I say find your style in the aspect that just because a good business book is 10 to 12 chapters, 10 to 12 pages, doesn't mean you have to write it in that exact style. You may be better with storytelling than I am, and you may be able to pontificate and make your ideas go for 10 to 12 pages. Versus my personal experience was with blogging. I had to have multiple ideas that tied together, that built on one another, that made sense together. But getting that idea across concisely was more important to me than elaborate storytelling in the specific book that I was writing. The second big aha moment, I would say, is figure out when you're most creative. I can't tell you that. I know, Jackie, you can't actually tell people that either. You can coach them, you can help them. I wanted to write at night. I wanted to get my kids to bed. I wanted to sit down with a beer, with a pop, with a whiskey, and I wanted to write. I'm fried at night. I would try and I would get distracted. I'd watch Netflix. I'd get on my computer and scroll socials. I wouldn't actually write. Turns out I am most creative at 5 a.m., which is not what I wanted to hear.
No. That's not my favorite either.
But I am. And so in order to get the book done, I started a routine, which is aha moment /A with this one. I started a routine where I would wake up every morning at 5 a.m. I'd shower, I'd get dressed, I'd put on a suit, I'd go into my office, and I would write for an hour as if it was my job. Some mornings I'd be in this magic place where I could put out 3 to 4 pages in that hour. Other mornings, it was a struggle to write a sentence, but I would sit there and write for an hour. And when the hour was done, I'd go on with my day and put it behind me and move forward. That routine really helped accelerate the writing process because then I continued to write regularly. And those days with only writing one sentence became fewer and fewer. And the days writing multiple pages started to happen more often.
That's fantastic. And that is a great strategy to use, finding that time where you're not too tired, you're not too distracted, and you can actually focus on and get motivated. And then when you train and establish that habit, which is a big strategy to do, is you train your body, you train your mind to really get that information out, get the story from your head to the paper or the computer or something that you can do that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Those are two big aha moments that first time writers need to know. And tell me a little bit.
To your point, Jackie, sorry to interrupt, but I think you are so good at this, and what you do with your business is helping people understand that even though they're writing, it doesn't have to be perfect the first time around. You said get your ideas down on the paper, and you're fabulous at this and making people understand it's not going to be perfect. But the most important process for first-time writers is getting it written down so that you can review it, family members can review it, editors can review it. That's one of the crucial steps. It's not going to be perfect, I promise.
It is. I'll have to pay you later for that. Wonderful. Thank you very much. But yes, it is true. You can't revise an empty page. You have to start somewhere. And that's a great point. So I do want the authors out there, the writers out there that want to get it, just get something down on paper. You can always fix it. We can always tweak it. And that's where the coaching comes in handy too. I know you've done that, and you've worked with several authors as well. So I want to commend you for all the help that you've done to all those aspiring writers out there. And tell me, you know, as you help others too, and you've done other things other than author, speaker, and you have your own business, Iron Horse, as well. But you've done so many different things. But as an author and becoming an author, we're going to wrap up, but tell me a little bit about the benefits of publishing that book and what that's brought to you.
The coolest part, I told my wife, other than our marriage and other than having our first 2 kids, having those books come that day, probably one of the coolest moments of my life. Seeing that semi back up and holding a hard copy of a book that I had written, that I had poured my identity, my time all into, was slightly on par with holding my first born kid. It's so rewarding just to go, hey, I did it. I did this. This is amazing. The support that I received from my community, from friends, from family, to actually sell the book and then to have it end up going into required reading for some colleges and universities in the area. I wrote the book really as a passion project because I wanted to help other people realize something that I wish I would have learned earlier in life. The side effects of this, as soon as you write a book, you're an expert. Whether you are or not, doesn't matter. If you have a book, you are an expert in that topic. And so for the business book authors that are watching this video or working with Jackie, it's a fabulous tool. It's better than a business card. If you want to have a book to provide legitimacy as well as to up your speaking game, it's going to do it. I was able to charge more for speaking fees because I would include copies of the book. People no longer questioned, you know, am I relative? Am I relevant? Do I know my information? Because I have a book that's published that shows relevancy as well as expertise in the market. It's also just cool as a dad. My daughters know that I wrote a book. They each have a copy, even though they're 11 and 9, and they point it out to their friends when they come over. Hey, my daddy wrote a book. It's pretty cool.
That's fantastic. Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Danny, on this. This is fantastic. And for the aspiring writers out here, I'm so excited you had an opportunity to get to know Danny here. If you have any questions on networking, this is the guy to talk to, DannyBeyer.com. And is there a way that they can get a hold of you easily if they have any questions on that?
Yep. The easiest way is just my email is just Danny@DannyBeyer.com. So super creative email address.
So original. No, I love it. Thank you so much. And we'll look forward to catching up with you very soon.
Thanks so much, Jackie. Bye, everybody.